Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, we're good. All right. I want to welcome you all here to the debate this evening. My name is Julie Sanders, and I'm Vice Chairman of Moms for Liberty Bay County. And we are very excited to have this debate and be able to sponsor this tonight. For the first time in a long time, we have multiple candidates running for positions. For so many years, there have been a lot of uncontested races. So we want you to be informed voters. We want you to know the candidates, where they stand, and when you go to those polls, that you make an informed decision. And, you know, we have, and that's not just at the local level, but we have contested races at the state and the national levels as well. But like I said, we are so happy to have you here, and I want to say this before I forget, because I put it real big here. Please silence your cell phones. Okay, and we are not planning on taking an intermission or break, so feel free if you need to use the restroom. It's out the doors and to your right. Okay, so we're going to get started with a prayer, as we always do, and it's my pleasure to introduce Sonia Seidler. She's our membership chairman and our Statue of Liberty. If you've ever, she wears the Statue of Liberty costume. So,
my claim to fame, Lady Liberty. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of civic responsibility and community. We ask for your presence and guidance as we listen, speak, and seek what is best for our children, our educators, and our schools. Grant wisdom to each candidate as they share their vision, and give them clarity, integrity, and humility in their words. Help them to speak with honesty, listen with respect, and serve with a genuine desire for the common good. Bless those who have gathered here. Give each of us discerning hearts and open minds as we consider the issues before us. May our conversations be marked by kindness, patience, and a shared commitment to strengthening education for every student. We pray for our teachers, administrators, staff, parents, and especially our students. Protect them, encourage them, and help our schools be places where learning, character, and opportunity flourish. May all that is said and done this evening honor truth, promote understanding, and contribute to the well-being of our community. In your most holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Sonia. That was wonderful. And now I would like to introduce Angie Blakemore, our treasurer, who will lead us in the pledge.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, looking around the room, where'd he go? There he is. We have one elected official in the room that we want to introduce, Jerry Register, who is a current member of the school board. He's not up for, this is your last term, right, with the term limits in, but he is here tonight, and so we just want to recognize him. And, pardon? He's been there a while. Okay, as I said earlier, we're very excited to bring this debate to you, and we want to get the ball rolling here and get this party started. So it is my extreme pleasure to introduce our chairman, Michelle Brown, and she is just a wonderful chairman, and she's going to move us on into the debate.
Well, thanks to Julie and Sonia and Angie. So I've just got a little bit of a statement that I'm going to read before we introduce the candidates. First of all, I'm just so happy to see all of you here. On behalf of Moms for Liberty Bay, thank you for joining us tonight for the school board candidate debate. Moms for Liberty Bay, for those who are not familiar with us, and I think most of you are, but we are an organization dedicated to empowering parents, promoting transparency, and encouraging informed civic engagement. Our goal tonight is simple: to provide a community with the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates seeking to serve on the Bay District School Board. We're pleased to welcome our candidates. From District 2, we have Ginger Littleton. We have Michael Petty. And from District 3, we have Coach Glenn Manley, Chris Moore, and Dr. John Haley. And Colleen Koch. I'm here. I knew I was going to do it. I knew it. It's here, I promise you. Okay. The local school board elections have a direct impact on our children and our teachers and the future of Bay County. The decisions made by the school board influence many things, including curriculum, budgeting, school safety, academic achievement, and the partnership between schools and families. These races matter, and every vote truly does make a difference. That is why we encourage every eligible voter to participate in the upcoming primary. An informed community is stronger community, and tonight is an important part of that process. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening, Liz McLean. Liz, thank you for serving our community, and thank you for facilitating tonight's discussion. So they just gave you a warm welcome. I was going to ask for one, but y'all already did it, so excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, welcome. To start tonight, I do have a little bit of housekeeping that we have to go over before we start with the questioning. So if you don't mind, we'll take care of that. First, the format for this evening is that the candidates are seated in alphabetical order according to their district that they are vying for election for. Opening statements will be in alphabetical order. Then the first question, we will go to the second person, and we will continue that with each question, moving down 1 through the 6 to start, as they all go through and answer the questions. Then candidates' opening statements, they are allotted 2 minutes each. Responses to questions, they are allotted 2 minutes each. And to get as many questions in that time frame, rebuttals will be limited and restricted to, you must be mentioned specifically by name in an answer, and then you will get 30-second rebuttal. And that, like I said, it only takes place if they are singled out specifically by name. Candidates' closing statements will be 1 minute each. If we keep this flowing, we get more questions. The timers are seated up front, to my right and to my left over here, and they will display a 30-second, a 10-second, and then a stop as they're watching the counter go down. So out of consideration for everyone, when you see the red card go up, please stop so we can go ahead and move on. The candidate rules, we'll go over those first. You're allowed written opening and closing remarks are permitted for them to have at their seat, only for those. After that, they have blank notepads that they can take notes on during the event. The candidates may not be interrupted by anyone, audience or other candidates, during their allotted speaking time. Signs, banners, flags, noisemakers, anything of the sort is not allowed during the debate time frame. There are tables for literature and stuff out front, and individuals are welcome to record the forum, so that you are welcome to do that. Audience rules, no beverages or food allowed in here. I'm sorry, I believe water is acceptable, but if you had anything else, you're going to have to keep it outside. Please be respectful of the candidates and all of those in attendance at all time. Hold applause until the end of the debate in order for more questions to be asked. No jeering or no booing will be allowed. No signs, banners, flags, noisemakers, et cetera, as we already did that. Time needed to quiet the audience takes away from time that the candidates can be speaking to you and to the public that want to hear from them. So
Any spectators not abiding will be requested to leave the venue, but I'm not worried about that. We're not going to have an issue. So that's our rules. Now we can go ahead and move along to what you came here to hear. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Do you want to turn it? I don't know if it will or not. I feel bad with my back to you. That's not fair.
Yes, ma'am. And could I ask a quick question? The
Absolutely.
rebuttal piece, I couldn't quite hear it when it was speaking out that way. Can you just generally give me the overhead on there? I heard something about mentioning a specific name and things like that.
Okay, so in someone's response, when a question is asked and one of your opponent is answering, if they mention you specifically in their response by name, then you have the option to have a 30-second rebuttal to that. If you are not mentioned specifically by name, then we just continue on to the next person for the next question.
Thank you so much.
So, sure thing. Any questions? Are we good? Okay. So we'll go ahead and start with Ms. Littleton. So for candidate introductions, if you'll,
Thank you
your
very
opening
much.
statements.
And
Go ahead.
thanks to all of you for being here and for letting us do this. I think we all work hard trying to make sure that everybody knows that we're running, and this is a really great venue for us to do that as well. I have been an educator, an administrator, a consultant. I was the director of the FSU Panama City STEM Institute. I am a former school board member. I've done many budgets and made many policies, so I have those responsibilities nailed, which are the primary responsibilities, and you're going to hear a lot about budget, I expect, in the next year or so. I feel guilty, however, that I've not made a difference in classrooms, since the same schools that struggled when I joined the board continue to struggle. I'm committed to improving that by using my voice and my experience to gather all of us to help. Bay District Schools has been trying to overcome this for a long time. Alexis knows. But we don't do this job alone. We need the entire community to contribute their time and their energy, especially, to help our kids. Every child can fly. Some just need a longer runway. And I want to be the lead builder in building those runways for all of our learners. We must push all students to higher academic levels and levels of achievement. We must equip all students to reach their full potential. When our learners are successful, we all share in their success. Britt knows when all of his students do well, the beach does well. And it's our job to be a part of that. And I thank you very much, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Petty?
Sure. Hi, my name is Michael Petty, and I feel bad for the timekeeper because I can talk. Many of you know me. I have been around for a while. I began as a substitute teacher in 2004 over in Surfside Middle School, then became a teacher. I taught at Rosenwald, Bay High School, Rosenwald High School, Mowat Middle School, then went into administration. I've always been an advocate for our kids, no matter what I did. When I was a kid, I needed a champion, and I've always been a champion in whatever role I'm in. So I look at it like this. We have an opportunity to make changes in our district. If we look at how things are going, we're heading in the wrong direction. At this time, I have an opportunity, me personally, to align my circle of concern with my circle of influence. A school board vote is an opportunity to make a change that will last a lifetime in our community. And what I bring is new ideas and passion and a love for our kids. This will be the shortest answer I will give the entire night. I promise you that. I do want to say one thing. Thank you for being here today. I hope that you all will be at our school board meetings. It would be great to see this big audience at all of our meetings, and I have 30 seconds. I'm going to give that back. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Haley?
Thank you so very much for hosting this. I really do appreciate each and every last one of you all for coming out and for the sacrifice that some of you all have had to make. I'm Dr. John Haley. I spent more than 30 years serving our students as a substitute teacher, a classroom teacher, a principal, assistant principal, dean, and a principal and a district administrator. And not only that, I'm a business owner. I own and founded Doc Homes LLC, a real estate development company. I'm running because I believe that every child deserves an opportunity for success. And not only that, a safe school in which to attend. I believe that every child deserves an excellent and phenomenal teacher and the opportunity to graduate, prepared for college. I oftentimes say every child should have the opportunity to experience the 3 E's: enrollment, enlistment, and employment. A high school ought to prepare a kid for enrollment in college, or enlistment in the military if that's what they choose to do, or employment, who ought to be the pipeline to gainful employment. So I don't come with any political promises. I come with a love for kids. I've always did that. I always loved kids and did whatever I conceivably do to ensure their success and their academic achievement. Improving student achievement has always been my #1 goal, and it's something I will always pursue. Come with a proven record, a record of leading a successful school. I led Arnold High School to its first A status. I made some hard choices, got teachers to buy in, and consequently, we experienced a high level of success. God bless you.
Ms. Koch?
Okay. Hi, I'm Colleen Koch, and I am running for Bay District School Board Seat 3. I am, I believe, the only current teacher to ever run for a position on the school board. So I am in the trenches. I see what's happening at the classroom level. I'm also the only candidate who has children in our schools. I have 5 children, ages 6 through 17. So I see what's happening at literally every level of the school. I have the energy, I have the passion. I taught at Mowat Middle School in 2004, before I even met my husband, when cell phones were not a thing in the classroom. I stepped out of teaching to have 5 children and was absolutely shocked at the changes that have happened in our schools since then. I currently teach at Mowat, so I teach 7th grade. And my platform is, I'm not a politician. I'm here because I know what's happening at home as a parent. I see the policies from that perspective. I also see the policies in the classroom, and I know that things can be better. I want technology to be used responsibly in our schools, and I want to support our teachers and staff, and I want policies that make sense. The school dress code is one of those policies that is instruction time is being lost because of the dress code issues that our current school board put into place, and also digital ticketing at sporting events when your 6th grader needs a credit card and a cell phone in order to enter his friend's volleyball game, and the app takes a courtesy fee off the top of that you don't know what you're paying. So some of these policies need to change, and that's why I'm running. So vote Colleen Koch, August 18th. I'm a teacher and a mother. Thank you.
Mr. Manley?
Well, I'm the shortest one here, but if you, I have to stand. If I made you run suicides or I made you run bear crawls or anything, I apologize. So, but I have 38 years experience, and I have 2 students sitting beside me that I did not teach Colleen. She probably came out better for that, but Chris was in my 7th grade or 8th grade geography class. So I've been teaching here since 1975, and I retired in 2013. I taught at Jenks for 8 years, where I taught American history and geography. I was also the head basketball coach, assistant football, and track. And I moved to Bay High in 1985, which I became a geography teacher, law studies, economics teacher. Also moved on to PE and was assistant coach in football, assistant coach in basketball. My favorite job, head coach in golf. But then I moved to be the athletic director, and then I went into administration my last 8 months, and I was at Bozeman. And then when I went to administration, I was at Cherry Street, so I turned out to be as tall as everybody else then, so I was happy about that. But I want to just say a couple of things, and I noticed that Dr. Rohan's here because I knew him before you were around, and we worked together at Tyndall at the hospital. So he was an orthopedic surgeon, and I was you go get this and bring it to me thing. So, but a couple of things here. I want you to know that we talk about school grades. One of the things we have to do is we have to start at the bottom at the elementary school and bring those up, because if you look at some of the places like where Bay has their feeder schools, they're C's, and so when we get to junior high or middle school, they don't have stuff to work with. We got to keep pushing them up so that when they come to high school, they have to finish. So thank you all for listening, and I'm proud you're here. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm the only non-educator on board. The only education I did was command the Navy Dive School, which taught 1,600 divers a year from all branches of the service. I bring what I think, and just to tell you a little bit about that, my 37 years of professional experience, just under 25 of that was as a naval officer, and the other 13, 14 have been at General Dynamics, a Fortune 100 company. That comes into play when I mention my 3 pillars that I'm going to mention tonight in this opening remarks. But Panama City, I can't say born and bred, but we got here in '68. I was born in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. I'm 3rd generation Navy, and my little brother and I were both born down there. But Bay High School graduate, as Coach pointed out, Jenks Junior High School, Oakland Terrace Elementary, St. Andrews Elementary, and A.D. Harris. So I came up through this system, and that's made me the person that I am. And that's why, one of the reasons I'm passionate about this. My wife, 31 years, she's a good Chipley girl, and she's traveled with me through 13 duty stations. We've seen a lot of school systems before, some good, some bad, some better than others, and I'm passionate about this particular job. I do a lot of things in the community, but none has fulfilled me over this last 4 years as being a school board member. And I can honestly say and look you in the eye that we have made some positive gains, and I've advocated for some positions out there. If you watched any of the school board meetings, you know I'm not the yes man on the board, because sometimes somebody needs to call it and say the way you want to do with it. So let's hit those 3 pillars that I focus on. First of all, transparency and accountability in everything we do. Everything we do. When people do good, we reward them. When they do bad, there needs to be a fitting sort of punishment or piece on that. Fiscal responsibility. Budget, $500 million. I'm used to budgets of billions of or half billions and hundreds of billions on that. And lastly, student outcomes is the paramount. It is the absolute pinnacle of what we do and everything else we do. And I thank you for your time, and I thank you for being out here.
Thank you. Thank you all. We're going to go ahead and start, and Mr. Petty, you will receive the first question since Ms. Littleton did her opening remarks first. So question 1 is, Bay District schools are facing many challenges. Which challenge would be your immediate priority, and how would you address it?
Well, that's a big question. Well, I think our students with disabilities, our ESE services, we have 2 types of students. We have students that have been diagnosed with a disability and those who have not been diagnosed yet. In essence, that would reach all of our kids, our students with disabilities, but I think the bigger problem even beyond that is the eroding confidence we have. We have parents who are pulling their kids out of our schools. We have teachers who are leaving. They're leaving our county, and they're going to neighboring counties. If we don't have the teachers, and we don't have the staff, and we don't have the administrators, we cannot service our students. We have students being pulled to go to homeschool, micro schools. They're taking the voucher. If we don't have the funds, we don't have the employees. So I think my first one would be to prioritize regaining the confidence of our community. And how would we do that? By focusing on accountability, transparency, our relationships, and our strong, safe schools. So the first thing is this audience here. We need a full school board audience. Let's move the meetings to 5:30 or later. Let's live stream all of the comments, even those during public comments that are currently not being aired. Why? Because it builds relationships with our people. It builds, I've got 30 seconds, okay. It builds relationships between our parents, our kids, and our school board. And that's how we start to fix the confidence issue. And then transparency with our budget. Again, we're losing teachers, we're losing our kids. Why? Because when folks do the cost-benefit analysis, they think about what they're doing and how they have to do it, and then what they're being compensated, they're leaving. So then let's look at our budget. The budget should be very clear. And I guarantee you, if it were clear, we would find the money we need in order.
Time's up. Thank you, Mr. Petty. So, Mr. Haley, do you need me to repeat the question?
Pardon?
Or do you need the question repeated?
No, I think I heard you say the biggest problem that we're facing.
Yes.
I think it's student enrollment. I think we're losing. Fact of the matter is, I think it was in 2022 when we had roughly 22,000 PK students, public K through 12 students, and then of course the private school at that time, no, excuse me, not private school, but the homeschool population at that time was 500. Fast forward to today, we still have relatively the same amount of students that we had in 2022. But homeschool students, which was 500, has now escalated. Now we have 2,000 homeschool students. So as Mr. Petty was saying, we're losing school students about a drove. I think from quarter 2 to quarter 3, we lost 160, 170 students. Overall, throughout the entire quarters, I think it was around about 470 students that we lost from 2024 to 2025, 26. If we continue to lose students at that rate, we're going to be in bad shape. Now, how do we fix that? We fix that by, again, regaining the confidence of our parents. Parents are leaving Bay District schools, and there's a reason why. They don't feel safe. And then some parents feel as if their kids are not getting what they need. But what I think we can do and to improve the academic standing of Bay District schools is this. We've got to have strong parental engagement. We have 4 counties west of Bay County. All of those counties were 8 schools. We have charter schools in Bay County. All of those are 8 schools. What's the common denominator? Parental involvement. If we can structure, organize, create a parental involvement program, then we will actually improve the academic standing of Bay District schools. And that will automatically draw parents back to us.
Thank you, Dr. Haley. Ms. Coach.
I'd love the question again. It's been
Koch. Okay, and I'm so sorry I mispronounced your name.
It's
I did it
Koch.
twice now.
It's fine.
I'll get it right. The question is Bay District schools are facing many challenges. Which challenge would be your immediate priority, and how would you address it?
Well, I was lucky to attend the Moms for Liberty Community Day. That was at the Millville Park. And I talked to a number of students while I was there. I was shocked that not one student was a traditional student, like when I went through Cherry Street Elementary, Jenks Middle School. It was a combination of students who were homeschooled or learning virtually by choice because they didn't want to attend our schools. So I definitely think that enrollment is a top priority. I think that some of the policies that are in the classroom, the curriculum, keeping kids on a Chromebook, there's a lot of district testing that is mandated above and beyond the fast testing that goes on. I'll have to tell my ELA kids, well, we get to spend 2 days on the Chromebook now doing this district common assessment because the district wants data. And I believe that parents, they're not up for that and they're pulling their kids out of our schools. So I think enrollment is a huge issue. And I think the curriculum and some of the district mandates need to be changed that will bring parents back.
Thank you. Mr. Manley.
Well, I think that one of the most important things is the budget. We seem to be going to have a crisis, but if you look at what the governor's going to do, he's going to take away some of the property tax. But if you own rental property, you get ready, your tax is going to go up. They're not going to give you a break without taking some of it back. That's the way the government works. The budget here, if you look at our budget overhead, is 14%. If you go to Walton County, it's 6%. If you go to Santa Rosa County, it's 9%. So every time we've had students, we have the same amount of students most of the time, around 27,174, somewhere in there. So it's not gone up, or it's gone up a couple of hundred, it's gone down a couple of hundred. But we keep adding administrative services to cover things. We have, I guess you would say, we have consultants on top of department heads. We don't need that many people at that building out there. Now, I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, but we have too many. A lot of money goes to that. And so if you go to the budget and you go to line 7200 list, and you can watch how far we add to administrative services every year from 2021 to 2025. I haven't seen 2026 one yet. The other thing is, I think we need to do, if you represent a district, you need to go to those schools and you need to visit, you need to talk to those people that work there, the support people. You need to talk to the teachers, the students. You need to know what's happening before you can make a judgment on what you're going to vote for. I know that I'm only one vote, but at least my schools and the other schools around will know that I represent them. I may not vote the way they want, but I'll know what to do about it. And also that I'll be there. I'm retired, so I can go anywhere I want at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, so something I guess the coach and I are in agreement on is the budget is my biggest concern right now. I've watched over the last 4 years as we've depleted our COVID funds, we've depleted our Hurricane Michael funds. Our budget currently this year, $667 million. That's going to go down by tens of millions, perhaps even $100 million in the next few years during this term. We've got to get a handle on it. We've got to get leaner at Balboa. We've got to get leaner in other areas. There are measures afoot on the board right now to do just that, combining job descriptions and titles into a single person, attrition by retirement, other pieces on that are less painful, but hard decisions are going to have to be made with the budget. Let's see. The budget, and I say this because student outcomes is the pinnacle of everything we do, but the budget touches virtually every facet of education within Bay District schools and every other school, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's on the PE field, whether it's sports and activities like band, and I was a band guy. Those are important things for team building and other pieces on that. But if we don't have our dollars straight and we become insolvent, there's going to be big issues and prices to pay with the state in particular on that one. But the budget is complex. I will not lie. It took me a year and a half, 2 years. Thank you. Year and a half, 2 years to even wrap my head around it enough to be a good contributor. I lobbied for more workshops starting in December, January, instead of starting in April, May, when we could set our priorities and we could do things right. And fortunately, everybody was on board with that. So again, the budget touches everything. We need to be good stewards because we're budget and policy at the school board level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton?
Okay, I met with some of the elementary person and the secondary person at the district, and that was kind of my question to them. It's like, what is the biggest deal? You're there, you're in the classrooms, whatever. Interestingly enough, and you're all right, those are all big issues. Their biggest number one issue was student behavior. I wasn't looking at that. I was probably figuring budget or something like that. No, we get kids coming into the system who are not civilized. And you know what? We can't fix that. We're not going to catch them up. We're going to be starting doing things that we were never supposed to do. No one ever got to be a teacher to say that I want to teach you to sit quietly. I want to teach you to use the bathroom appropriately. I didn't sign on for it. So I was really sort of taken aback. The only answer for that, there are two answers. One, I think, as one of you said, is start early. We cannot have kids coming into kindergarten who don't have certain skills. And I can't buy a new parent. We all know that's really a hard nut to crack. And I think making it information that everybody is aware, and making sure that even parents are aware that we are not a place to drop your kid, we are a place to educate your kid. And we can have those kinds of practices from now on. The kids in high school, we've already started, and I'm loving to see it. I think we've started to go ahead and use truancy court. Attendance is another issue, and that because they didn't know what to do when they were young, now they don't come to school, and we can't educate them either. So for me, behavior is a huge thing, and if we can make it right, we got it covered. If we can't, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, trying to do the best we can with what we have, and I'm not satisfied with that.
Thank you. The next question will start with Dr. Haley. The question is, the Bay County School District has had a budget well above $600 million. What relevant experience do you have with financial management or overseeing large expenditures?
As the executive director for Bay District Schools that oversaw 9 departments, I was responsible for approximately a third of the district's budget. But you got to understand something about financing schools. Financing schools has 3 legs: federal, state, and local, the local effort. So underwriting or supporting the school, the school operations comes by way of federal, becomes by way of state, and becomes by way of the local effort. That being said, I had to take a look at what we were doing in order to save money in the district when I was the executive director for operations. And I found out that we were paying $8 million a year. At that time, we had probably 27 to 31 schools. I can't remember the number right now. But to me, that was insidious. That was insane. $8 million to Gov Power for electricity. I implemented a program. I initiated a program. In our first year, we saved the district $800,000. The following year, we saved the district $1.2 million. Lee Walters, a gentleman who I hired, who is now the executive director, or he is the deputy superintendent of maintenance. He has followed my lead on that, and he's continued to find savings in the operations department, especially as it relates to energy. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that we save money in energy. And then not only that, for transportation, you'll find now in the community, buses are staged in locations. That is something we started under my leadership. We staged the buses, and we save a lot of money because drivers were taking buses home. Everybody drives to work. I drive to work. So we said, our bus drivers are going to drive to work as well. And so that helped us save an enormous amount of money. God bless you.
Thank you. Ms. Koch.
Okay. So can you repeat the question? Financial?
Yes, absolutely. The Bay County School District has had a budget well above $600 million. What relevant experience do you have with financial management and overseeing large expenditures?
Well, as a mother of 5 boys, my financial experience is definitely being the CEO, you might argue with me, my husband in the audience, of our household. But I definitely think policy plays into a budget, and as a school board member, they go hand in hand. I've been looking at budgets of larger school districts and where they spend money, and definitely St. Johns County, who is #1 in our state for the schools, they spend about $600 per student on their administrative and operations costs, while here in Bay District schools, we spend about $1,000 per student or more for the very same cost. So right there, I think we need to look at cutting the administrative and operations costs per child. Additionally, I watched the June school board meeting, and without batting an eyelash, unanimously it was voted on to spend $350,000 on a program called iReady. And iReady is currently being sued because they falsified their data of their diagnostic testing, and they're also being sued for selling student data. So just because it's called educational technology doesn't mean we need to be spending money on it. So I definitely would love to delve into our budget and make changes.
Thank you. Mr. Manley.
Well, first thing, I don't know a whole lot about budgets. I didn't cover $1 million here and there. I just had the amount of money that we got from the county to travel for all of our sports and for our clubs. And so you have to kind of ration that out. And I know this about budgets. If you don't have the money, don't dang spend it. I know that. And so here's the thing. We need to figure out where we're going to start cutting it from. We don't cut it from the bottom where we have the teachers, the support people, and all the services. You don't cut it from there. You have to find out where you're getting the most effective thing from who, what department, and where can we skim some off of that. I'm just going to tell you, if we don't do that, we're going to be in a world of hurt. And the thing about that is, eventually, if we keep spending and spending, we're going to get in the red. And so that is just definitely terrifying if you get in the red. So I just think you need to make sure you know where you're cutting. And we're going to talk about probably the red letter day. Do we cut people who have a lot of experience to save money? No. You keep the people with experience because they can teach the younger people that are coming up. But you're going to have to find some department that you don't need as many people, Indians in there. You only need one chief. So I think you need to make sure you're reaching around where you're going to start cutting things. Make a definite plan to do that. And again, I want to go back to, if you don't, we talked about the discipline in the earlier grades. We have to start at the bottom and work up. We need to make sure we're propping up those elementary schools so when those kids go to junior high or middle school, those schools are going to be B's and A's so you can propel it on up the ladder. That's what we have to do. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am. So budget experience, I think this is probably my strongest suit of the skill sets that I've brought to the school board over the last 4 years. It started out with military command experience. I've commanded units 3 separate times in my 24 years and 3 months. And we had literally, in the smaller commands, tens of millions of both budgeting and procurement involved with that, up to the larger commands when I was a commander and captain in the Navy, of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of budgets. I know these processes, and things like contracting and procurement are hand in hand with the budget, because you have to know the process and you have to understand the rules that govern how we get bids and how we do things along that line to save money. Defense contracting, my last 14 years I've been with General Dynamics, again in the hundreds of millions of procurement and budgeting in that arena. It's been an eye-opener. We have something called the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, of which the state has similar types of laws that we have to follow. But you have to know these laws, and you have to know what's within the power of the board to make these budget decisions. And then lastly, 4 years on the Bay District school budget. I've watched this budget fluctuate from a little over $500 million to, $500 million with a B, to this current number of $667 million that we're at right now, but it's going to start trending downward. And with the 30 seconds I have left, again, I believe I bring immense experience to this one, and I've saved money, and I've been awarded, medals for things along that line of being a commanding officer and being a good steward of our taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton.
Budgets are complicated in education. I've been doing them for a number of years. I haven't done them the last few years, but I do have a feeling that the next few years are going to be really painful. One of the first tasks that I had when I was elected, and actually when Superintendent Husfeldt was elected, because the superintendent really figures out how to cut. The board says you cut, and then the superintendent implements that. And so the first thing that Bill Husfeldt said was, I want you to get a third of everybody's staffing out of each department at the Nelson Building. It was the same complaint. It was top-heavy. And Glenn McDonald and I sat with every single department head and said, give us 1/3 of your people. They got to be gone. It was bloodletting. It was genuinely horrible. But guess what? We did it. They did it. Now, they didn't fire everybody. You know, we have ways. They want to move them into schools or whatever. But they got off the rolls at the Nelson Building, and some did lose their jobs. So I played in this sandbox, and sometimes it's not very comfortable. And I have a feeling that the next few years it's going to get even less so. So I do have experience, and I am impressed. I don't think you have a bad choice on anybody. These people are pretty savvy and pretty with it, and that's very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Petty?
Yes. So I have been studying, pouring through, trying to figure out, understand our school budget and our district budget since 2007. I've been able to look at it from the teacher side, from the school-based administration side, as well as from the district side. And I gotta tell you, it's like reading hieroglyphics. So what I focus on is, it is our money. It is not 5 people's money. It is not the superintendent's money. And when I say 5 people, I mean the school board. It's not their money. It's ours. We should all understand it. And as we enter into these times when it's going to be austerity, the public should be able to speak up on their priorities for our money. So how do we accomplish that? On our website, we should have a dashboard where we can clearly see in layman's terms, we can all understand exactly each budget, each categorical, each school, our money, and we can watch it being spent. So let's give an example. We know that diesel gasoline is a little bit more, in fact, we're all paying a little bit more at the pump. So I would expect to see that we have probably blown through our diesel fleet gas budget probably halfway through the year. So then where did the money come to pay for the rest of the gas? Clearly it had to come from somewhere. The dashboard would allow for us all to see how it is being spent. Al Gore we all make fun of him. Al Gore had his little lock boxes. That's our school. That's our district money. The money from Tallahassee and the money from Washington, D.C. comes in these little boxes, and we're not allowed to spend it however we want. So whatever we can spend, we have to be very careful with it, and I think all of the public should be a part of that conversation.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our next question, and Ms. Koch, you will be the first person to start with this one. So in Florida, the state government has prioritized reforms to bring transparency to instructional material and library book selections due to explicit pornography being found in public schools. Moms for Liberty in Bay County has faced roadblocks having full access to library book lists. Do you support making all instructional materials in book lists easily accessible to parents and the community? If so, how?
Well, I definitely, as a school teacher, my library has to be vetted by our media center specialists. She has to come in and log which books are available for the students in my classroom. The selection of novels also has had to be vetted for our curriculum. So I definitely believe that should be available to the public and already is available. So yeah, transparency is key.
Thank you. Mr. Manley.
Well, when you get into this is one of those subjects where everybody has their own opinion. The thing about that is you should trust the media service. They went through all this science to learn how to do this. The county has a policy on what you should have and what you should not have. Again, it's also left up to the parent what their child should be having. And so when you get into this little, I guess you'd call it circumstance or prediction or predicament. You have to be careful, and you do not want to force anything on anybody. And I think what happens is the media specialist and the administration at the school, and then you follow the school board rules. I think that's what you have to do. And if they're not happy with it, then you have to explain why you don't want certain things in there. And it's up to them if they want those to read those at home, not at school. So I don't think it's acceptable to be there at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Yes, so the key word in here, also in my stump earlier, is transparency and accountability. We absolutely have to have this transparency, and I seem to have seen a little bit of progress in the right direction over the last 4 years. I remember my first year on the board, we actually pulled one book from one shelf at a single school. It was, as you mentioned, pornographic in nature, rape and other subjects that are just not appropriate, and more importantly, there was no educational value with this particular book that I read, and understood it to be entertaining to some maybe, but there were 5 copies of that book at the public library, and if the parents really want to do that, give them their Kindle or give them a library card and they can go down and get it. It doesn't have a place on the shelves within that. So how do we do that was the second part of your question. Again, it's transparency and it's accuracy, and it's holding our media specialists to a certain standard of having their books updated on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, with Excel spreadsheets and the tools that we have these days. This should be a piece of cake for a hard copy book. It's not like it's software sneaking in, doing something. We're talking about books on that one. And so we need to hold each of the schools accountable for that, make sure that they understand every book that's in there. And on the ordering of new textbooks, sometimes we get other books slipped into the orders that were not ordered or paid for by the district on that one. And some of them do walk the line on not being appropriate material for students, minors in this case, at all, period. So again, goes back to the transparency, goes back to the accountability and holding people accountable on what we have in our libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton.
We, in the early 80s, had an experience with books in classrooms. And because it was sort of baptism by fire for us, for example, I was teaching English at Bay High, and my job was to go through Julius Caesar and find any bad words, even though they might have been Elizabethan bad words, that I could report from Shakespeare. Because of that experience, this district has a very robust policy for removing materials from the classroom. It was tested. I mean, we made the national news. It was very interesting. So I feel like if we're going to do something like that, if the policy's not working so that parents can get materials that they find offensive either removed or not available for their own child, then we should adjust the policy. But I guarantee you, when it was first implemented, we had a real problem in Bay District schools. Transparency that's the way it has to be. And parents do have the rights to adjust for their child. So I think that we pretty much already have the basis for what might be a very satisfactory solution if we all work on maybe fine-tuning that process.
Thank you. Mr.
No
Petty.
child should read anything the parent does not want them to read. It's very simple. We just publish all of the materials, and if there's an issue, as a classroom reading teacher, I never made any kid read any book or even finish any book. It was always their choice, and it was always the parent's choice. We have technology, like Chris said, just publish the list. If the parents don't want them to read it, that's it. No kid is forced to read anything.
Thank you.
I think
Mr.
the
Haley.
key word that you said, I want to piggyback off something that Chris said, was transparency. It's imperative that we give parents access to the list of books that they will be required to read. And in the event that you don't like that book, then of course you don't ask your kid to read that book. It's important for me to understand that every parent has the autonomy to determine what book their child reads. I think that's imperative. Now, these individuals who are certified librarians, they should have the knowledge and the expertise to determine what's age appropriate for school, especially when it comes down to elementary, middle, and even in high school. I lived through the process. In fact, I was working at a high school when we had, I don't know that it was the first attempt at a book ban, but we lived through that entire process while I was at this particular high school, and it was long, and it was laborious, and I think it was a decision that was determined for holistically that student body. It may be appropriate, maybe rightfully so, but I think in this day and time that we need to, again, be as transparent as we conceivably be, and then we hold those individuals who are responsible for looking at those textbooks, for help, making sure they don't get on the shelves. And of course, as a parent, you should be responsible for making sure your child doesn't have access or doesn't read something that you don't like.
Thank you. We'll move along to our next question, and this time we will start with you, Mr. Manley. So, the current school board meeting schedule is held during the workday, with significant portions of the business conducted withheld from the public, including public comments. Would you support changes to BDS operations to make meetings more accessible for working parents, and what would those changes look like?
Well, I think, again, that's a little tough subject because we've heard that they've tried every place, every time. But here's the thing: if we're supposed to serve the people, so if we start at a reasonable hour where they can attend, whether they attend or not, at least they know they could get there, possibly. And we need to start streaming all of the school board meetings. I don't care if you're bored with the business. I've sat through many of them after we got some awards from Bay High School and sat there and just to hear. So you need to be informed so that you know what's going on, how your school board representatives are voting. I just think it's important that you make it available to everybody that can get there. You may not be able to attend, but at least you know it's available for you to be there. You don't have to rush. If you teach school or if you have to pick your child up or something, you may not be able to make it. So I think to move it back to say 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock. That thing.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am. So on school board meeting changes, I'm amenable to it because I want max participation. And I think we've done a good effort on trying to find where the sweet spot was with scheduling. We've tried 1 p.m. For a year. We tried 3 p.m. for a year. We tried 5 p.m. for a year. And then there was 1 year where we had every other meeting was at 1 and the other meeting was at 5 p.m. on that one. I kept the notes on it. I'm all about data and empirical pieces. I didn't see major changes on that. But if 5:30 is a more reasonable hour, and I'm hearing that from constituency out here, I'm more than amenable to giving it a try. But I just want to find the sweet spot, find where we can get the best attendance, and like has been said out here, we have more people in this room that are listening and have a mindset of wanting to make our community a better community than we do at any board meeting at any time that we've ever had. So yes, I'm amenable to trying whatever works and keeping the stats on that one. If 5:30 is a good time and people can get from work to there, then I'm all for that. What I find though is that people show up to the meetings because they have something to say. And so, well, won't go into that just yet, but they show up if they have something that they have heartburn with. Very rarely will you get kudos from or on the lectern. It doesn't happen that way, but people come when they're interested in a subject, and it's usually personal. There are a few stalwarts that come every meeting and speak on curriculum and things along that line, and that's a good thing. But in the end, very happy to mold to what the community says, and I'm going to continue to reach out to people and hear what they have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton.
Well, Mr. Register would probably agree with me. The board has always, has my experience, just been whenever you guys can be there, that's when we want to be there. We tried the same thing. We tried 1 o'clock, we tried 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we tried 3 o'clock. And the reality is that people come when there's an issue, a hot button issue for them. The district is general, but when there's a hot button issue, people will show up. As a board member, if you'll show up, I'll be there at 7 a.m. Well, maybe not 7 a.m. I mean, that's our job. And your job is then, if we see that you are really interested, we'll bend over backwards to make sure that we are accommodating your needs. I'm pretty sure that would be true of any board.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Petty.
So part of being a school board member is getting 3 votes. And I think that just having the conversation that I've been having has already gotten a couple votes because I can hear some minds have been changed already. Here's what I say. People live up to the expectations that have been set forth for them. Our expectation should be that the public does attend, but more than that, they attend because they want to be engaged. They don't want to leave. That is how I would speak with and engage with our public. It's our kids we're talking about, and it's the school board that is making policy and spending money on behalf of the public and about our kids. So let me say it one more time. Not only would I change it to 5:30, I would live stream everything, and I would beg everyone, please do not leave when the awards have been given out. We could go a step further and move the awards to the end of the meeting. I just want people there. Let me tell you this. I have been able to go to many different counties, and the top performing counties in our state, they have their meetings in the evening. And one of the most beautiful things to watch is that they do not sit there and get up to the microphone and chew out the school board. They're engaged because they care. The business owners are there. The parents are there, and I don't have a card yet, so I can keep talking. The parents are there. The kids are there. It is a positive experience. Now I have a card. So if I were the chair of the school board, I would be begging you, please stay. I would ask people, go turn in the yellow card. Come up here and talk. I think they want to be engaged. We just need to invite them.
Thank you.
As I said a little earlier, and I'm going to piggyback off something that Michael just said, parent engagement is the common denominator for successful student performance. And if we can improve our schools, improve our students' academic success and achievement by having meetings later in the day, getting the parents involved, getting the students involved, then that's what we should do. Someone mentioned just a minute ago, Michael did, the top performing schools have those meetings in the afternoons, in the evenings. The top performing schools. That's probably one of the reasons why they're top performing. Parents are engaged. They're engaged in the system. And if we can do whatever it is we can to engage our parents in every aspect of the educational system in Bay District Schools is going to be better off for it. So yes, I would laud and I would definitely lean very heavily on having meetings where more parents can become involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Koch.
Yes, I definitely think the meeting should be held at times when the working public is available. To have a meeting at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, I can't make it. It's not going to happen. And if I can't make it, then I would definitely want to watch the meeting maybe on YouTube or some sort of accessible streaming service. But definitely 6 o'clock, parents need to be engaged. They need to be welcome to these meetings, because right now having it at 12 or 1 o'clock, you're telling me you don't want me there. Additionally, the public comment section, when you do go back to watch a school board meeting, has been completely censored. So you can't even get a sense of what's happening in these meetings that you weren't able to attend because you were working. So that needs to stop. They're hiding behind some sort of FERPA law, but other districts, if you watch the live stream, say of St. Johns County, then the person will read the law, what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say as a public commenter, instead of just completely blacking it out. Additionally, we could have a student representative be part of our school board meetings. That doesn't happen in this county. And I'm not even sure why the attorney is sitting up with the school board members. That doesn't make any sense to me. As well as this rolling cart that comes out when the public wants to say something. It seems very like you're not really here. You're not meant to say what you have to say isn't as important because you're just going to come in on this rolling cart and then leave. So there needs to be a podium for everyone to be able to address the school board, not have it look like a fleeting, you're welcome for 2 seconds and then we're gonna black out your public comments. So a lot of changes need to happen, not just the time, but that definitely needs to change.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm like, wait a second here. So we're going to go ahead and go on to our next question. Mr. Moore, you will be starting this time. That while the district strives to put the A back in Bay, some achievements have been made, but there is also a concern that standards have been lowered, such as students receiving no grade less than a 50, and that a focus on standardized test scores. While there are students in middle and high school who are behind in basic literacy, how should student success be measured beyond standardized test scores?
That's a really, really tough question because we are hamstrung by the state in a lot of respects. And I know all the educators down to my right here understand that those standards are the standard and how we measure things. This is almost an individual question on how do teachers get the mission done. In other words, do they have the latitude that they need to get the requisite knowledge to the students so that they can not just pass tests, because that's one piece of it, but also have retention of that piece. We have one gentleman who comes to every school board meeting, and he mentions this very subject of how they've lowered the standard over the years. I think it's horrible, but it's also, that in particular is state mandated on that one. And we, other than voting for a different governor or getting a different DOE director in, we have a tough time trying to change what's in that piece of it. So a very tough question and a legitimate one, but at this point, I just do not see the major sea change that we could affect to change grading systems and still be compliant within state and federal law on that one. Let's see. Nope, that's about all I've got for that one.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton.
The standards are required, as Chris said. The state owns us. More and more, the state owns us, and we do whatever the state tells us. If they say jump, we say how high. This started with Jeb Bush. Standards-based education is a fine idea. It's taken us a long time, but we've kind of figured it out. The data that we collect from testing is helpful if we use it properly, even though getting all the data kind of defeats the purpose because you have days of testing that then are days of non-instruction. So all of you teaching out there, I know you guys love that whole testing thing. I know you do. So my thing is that the standards that come from the state, while we don't own, they are the floor. They're not the ceiling. When years ago, most of you don't remember, we had a minimum skills test. Guess what teachers taught? Minimum skills, okay? Now these standards are very sophisticated and it's taken a lot of time and energy and effort to get them where they are. However, they're still the floor. We have fewer students in Bay County now taking upper level courses like physics and calculus and chemistry fewer, even though we have more students than we did in the fall of 2018. That's not a trend that I want to see. So if anything, we can make our own assessments, we can make our own standards. We're not stuck with the state. We have to do what the state says, but that's the floor. The ceiling belongs to Bay County.
So I think I understood the question to be, we are being told by policy that a grade to a student is 50%. That's the lowest grade we can put in. And then you're asking about the standards.
Yeah,
I don't think you're asking about the academic standard. I think you're asking about the performance and how things are going in the school. Is that correct?
Yeah, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay. While the district strives to put the A back in Bay, some achievements have been made, but there is also a concern that the standards have been lowered, such as students receiving no grade less than a 50, and that a focus on standardized test scores while there are students in middle and high school who are behind in basic literacy. How should student success be measured beyond standardized test scores? And please don't penalize him for time while I was speaking. Thank you.
So we're talking about the bar. The bar has been lowered. It certainly has. It is unconscionable to enter a minimum of a 50. If a student earns a 25, they have earned a 25, and that is what we put in the grade book. What we need as a school board is a school board that will stand up and support the principal and support the teacher, so that when the student has the 25, we then support them. So when someone is upset about a 25, we then provide the budget to do the remediation. Let me say that another way. The reason for the 50 is because we don't want to have too many kids repeating classes. So in the first semester, if the lowest you can put in is a 50, then the kid can get a 70 or an 80 the next semester, and it averages out and the kid passes. If we put in the 25 and the kid ends up getting a 30 for their first semester and then gets a 50 or let's say a 70 for the second semester, it doesn't average out and the kid has to retake the class. What I say is the school board needs to support the principal, support the teachers, provide the funding so the kid can take the class again. If we want them to rise to the level or the bar that you're talking about, the 50 is artificial. It's not real. We're not preparing them for the real world. There is no 50 out working at Target. You have to do 100% of the job. That's my answer.
Thank you.
I'm going to approach this from another perspective, from a practical standpoint of view. What I did as a principal at Arnold High School wouldn't accept failure from anyone. Fact of the matter, one of the things that we did was, utilizing the standardized examinations, we extrapolated questions that were pertinent to the assessment test that we were getting ready to take all along the way. In other words, we incorporated assessments every 2 weeks that were similar to what the kids were going to face. So we made the standards, more so than ever before, we made the standards a part of the curriculum. We didn't just want kids sitting in a desk from August until May not showing any learning gains. So in order to make sure our kids would show learning gains, we incorporated assessment language from previous tests from years past. And what that did was it ensured that all of our kids were becoming acclimated to the standardized test, the FCAT assessment that was eventually they were going to face. And so what that did was this: it prepared our kids for those state examinations. And as a result of that frequent acclimation to the language that they were going to face in October, in February, our kids did exceptionally well. So we didn't dump down the curriculum at all. We made sure that every one of our students were acclimated, became acquainted with the language that they were going to be confronted with on an annual basis. But we did it every 2 weeks, and that's how we became an A school. I didn't want those kids saying that, but for some odd reason or another, it appears to be we never could preach an A. For some odd reason or another, it appears those kids were surprised when they got there, when they had to make that assessment. But we ensured that those kids were acclimated and were familiar with the language that they were going to be confronted with. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Koch.
Okay, so I definitely hear about our graduation rate being really, really high, and that is wonderful. But as a classroom teacher, when a student doesn't show up and I have to give them a 50, well, you just took away half the value of the kid that made an A, you know, because they worked hard for that grade. There's been a lot of talk about standardized testing, and yes, while the state has the requirements to do fast testing, the district puts a lot of emphasis on district common assessments that take days of classroom instruction away from a teacher. There's also diagnostic testing in order to, I don't know, fulfill the educational technology obligations that the district puts forth. And that's additional days of instruction that are lost that your student is just in front of a Chromebook gathering data for our district. And where does this data go? I don't even know, and I'm a classroom teacher. So it's just, you know, grinding out more data to look at numbers. But anyway, so I think you need to treat your teachers like the professionals that they are and make sure that they have the tools to master the state standards. As a teacher, I'm able to use the curriculum, I'm able to use CPALMs, and I'm able to use, I can't go on Teachers Pay Teachers and look for materials to add to my curriculum. And I think that that policy needs to change so that we can show mastery of the state standards. And maybe the way that we grade needs to be changed. So, you know, your report card might look a little different to show mastery of standards. But I do agree that we are just passing students so that it looks good and they're not necessarily getting the tools that they need.
Thank you. Mr. Manley.
Well, again, this is a complicated thing. I think I'm going to go back to you have to start at the bottom. You have to go to the elementary schools, and you have to get they have a pair with most elementary teachers and kindergarten teachers, and you have to have some of those interventionists who are at the higher levels. They need to be down there too, because if somebody misbehaves, then the teacher has to take time out to get a little discipline, or the para has to leave, taking away instruction time for the other students. And so if you have an attendance policy in the state of Florida, if you're absent 21 days with unexcused absence, you fail. I don't know if we're doing that policy. I don't know if we're really doing all that. But you have to build up. And the other thing too is we got to have the teachers get to teach instead of all this testing. My wife is a test coordinator for Bay High School. From March through April, she's like a CPA trying to get your income tax out before the deadline. So at our house, we just walk on eggshells when it's test time. But I tell you though, you have to do that. And whatever happened to the old California Achievement Test? Everybody in here took that, I'm sure. And if you didn't pass that, then you had some problems. But we used to say, what happens in California, we don't care. But anyway, that's another thing. But, you know, the discipline, if the discipline's not there and the attendance policy is not there, then you're not going to get the schools to get the grades they need, and you're taking innovation time away from the teacher who knows how to educate those kids. And so if we don't give them the time to do it, and we are always sitting there on top of them saying, hey, you better make sure we pass this test. Hey, you better make sure they do this. So I remember one time Delasane told me, if something goes wrong with that test, they may fire you. I said, you think I'm going to tell them if I did something wrong? I'm not telling them that. But anyway, I think you have to go from the bottom up, because that way you feed the junior high school and middle school, get their grades up, and that carries on to the high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, we will start with you, Ms. Littleton. There has been a nationwide surge of student suicide stemming from bullying and extreme discipline issues within classrooms, with 1 or 2 students disrupting the learning and safety of both students and teachers. Some parents locally have reported incidences of this, but do not believe they are being heard and the issues are not being addressed. What is the proper role of the school board in ensuring a safe environment for students?
safe environment is the foremost, especially after our history in this board. That's the primary responsibility, and that's the first thing on budget. If you really are going to cut something on the budget, you're not going to cut safety and security. So that is an issue. It's only complicated because we're dealing with children. You've all had middle schoolers? Enough said on that one, right? It is not easy. Bullying, especially now when kids have all of these, I mean, they're communicating constantly, even in my English class, you know, and I may have to hit you with my purse if you do that. So, I mean, it's a complicated thing, and it's only a few usually. So here's my deal. I think this group of children, for reasons like Michael and COVID and whatever, they have sort of a different psyche about things. But right is right and wrong is wrong. And any child who gets bullied, the bullier should pay some consequences. I know it gets complicated when he said, she said, we've all been there trying to figure out, was it really that or was it misconstrued or whatever. But I don't want any parent coming to the board saying, my child went to another school because he or she could not feel comfortable in this school. And we will have to do something about that. We have the SROs, SRDs in our classrooms could be helpful. The other thing with the suicide, we are spending way more money on mental health services than we have ever spent. For whatever reason, mental health is a huge issue, and we're going to have to be the grown-ups and call the shots. Oh, that was a bad, never mind. We need to be the grown-ups, and we need to figure out what we need to do so that this stops.
Thank you. Mr. Petty.
First, we have people in schools right now whose job it is in their title, school counselor. We have people who are trained to counsel with our kids. So as a school board member, 1, I will return your email, I will investigate, and 3, I will make certain that we take as much as we can off of the plates of our school counselors so they can counsel. Next, we need to prioritize relationships. Our kids need to feel like they have somebody on campus that cares about them, knows about them, and sees them a champion. When they are feeling a certain way, they know who to go to and they're able to get there. But more importantly, that person is available. So from a budget perspective, I would support redirecting as many funds as possible to our school counselors, our mental health therapists. It's all about relationships.
I want to speak to this from a practical standpoint as the superintendent, principals, and assistant principals and administrative assistants are his responsibility. They're his staff. Now, my motto when I was working as a dean, administrative assistant, assistant principal, and a principal was this: keep it on the first floor. Do not let it go. Escalate to the district office. Has no business there. Bullying, any issues involving students or parents, rectify, resolve these scenarios on the first floor at the school level. Don't let it get to the county office, the district office. Now, that being said, I think it's imperative that we do all that we conceivably can. One of the things that I would always do is make sure parents were involved whenever there was an issue and there was a parent who needed to be involved. Perhaps the kid was bullying another kid, but you got to get to the parent and involve the parent in the scenario ASAP. The more you involve parents in the educational scenario of kids, the better they behave. When a child is bullying, acting out, picking on another kid, they don't want their parents to know that is occurring. I can remember when I started teaching at A.D. Harris High School, a school for kids with behavior problems. And I told them, I was having such difficulty with those kids. I told the kids I was being evaluated or looked at every 6 weeks as a beginning teacher. And I put a camera in the back of the classroom. They saw the back of their heads, they didn't see the front of the faces. And I told the kids that I'm being constantly evaluated, I'm being constantly looked at, so I want to look at myself teaching. And when I did that, those kids feared that their parents would see what was going on. And you know what happened? It became a choir room. Everything stopped. And so I said that to say this. Let's involve our parents in every scenario that we conceivably can and keep things, and as a school board member, I would say keep it on the first floor. Thank you.
Ms. Koch?
Okay, your question again, because I know it was twofold.
Yes. There has been a nationwide surge of student suicides stemming from bullying and extreme discipline issues within classrooms, with 1 or 2 students disrupting the learning and safety of both students and teachers. Some parents locally have reported incidences of this, but do not believe they are being heard and the issues are not being addressed. What is the proper role of the school board in ensuring a safe environment for students?
Well, I was in the classroom this year with several colleagues in the audience when Mowat had their lockdown, and I can assure you that there are policies in place where we had a lot of the sheriff's deputies immediately at our school. We knew exactly what to do as teachers. I feel like we do get a lot of training for lockdown type situations. So I feel like schools are secure, but there needs to be transparency. As a school board member, you need to be able to be available to the public 100%. And if a parent has an issue or they're afraid for some reason about a security issue at a school, then they need to come to the board and they need to get a prompt response immediately. As far as 1 to 2 students disrupting class, I saw a post about this that said, you know, all of a sudden when it's state testing time, you can't have any disruptions in your classroom. But on a normal day, you would have to put up with quite a bit as a teacher of disruptions and just try to handle it on your own. So I believe that teachers need more support in the classroom, and every day needs to be treated like state testing day where, you know, it is a quiet atmosphere. This is work, educating children. If there's ever a threat of bullying, a school board member needs to be available in order to step in and, you know, make sure that school is a safe place. I don't want to send my kids to school if I'm scared for their safety. No thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Manley?
Well, sometimes when you see their parents, you know why they're like they are. That's all, you know. So, but having been an administrator, I saw some of that. So they even scared me. So, but I think, thank goodness for the SROs, because the kids sometimes will confide in them when they won't with you. But I tell you what, this little thing right here, that's your problem. Okay, because they do not know how to resolve conflict with each other. They don't know how to talk to each other. They'll email or they'll text somebody that happens something on the night before, so when they get to school, they're all fired up and they start bullying each other or they pick sides. And some people are so sensitive, and because we've been so isolated from school situations in the past couple of years, they don't know how to handle this. They don't know who to talk to. And so they need to make sure they do that. And also, you need to talk to your students personally. You need to know everybody in your class, and then you have a relationship with those kids, because be interested in what they're interested in. You'll find out a lot if you talk to them and you know how to cut some things off. If you stand in the hallway, especially in middle school and high school between classes, and just speak to people as they walk by, you can stop some of that. You could find out who's bullying who, but if it gets any worse and you've told somebody you need to report it, then we need to go through the procedure. But if you teach them how to resolve conflict without killing each other, so to speak, you know, that's the thing to do. But they seem to take sides with this thing right here, and then they group text, and then next thing you know, you got 3 or 4 people. After 3 or 4 people, somebody gets bullied, and, you know, now we got a whole different issue. So that's one of the things I think we need to take care of.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. So a couple of things here on this one. The suicide bullying piece is definitely an issue, but we need to make clear our roles and responsibilities of the board and of the district staff under Mr. McQueen. First of all, I believe we have a sound policy in our school systems right now. The problem is it doesn't always get executed in the manner that it's written. In other words, as one of my colleagues or fellow runners for school board mentioned, it needs to be happening at the lowest level. The teachers need to be involved as quickly as possible and escalate it if it needs to be escalated up through the chain of command. And at that point, if it gets to an expulsion hearing because the behavior is worthy of that, that's when the board steps back in from a policy-wise. And we are the judge, jury, and dispenser of punishment under the expulsion hearings, which we'll have one next Tuesday, one or two there. They don't happen frequently, but they do happen. But until it gets to that point, all we can do as board members is ensure our policies are tight and encourage max participation with everybody in the district that has hands-on kids, that has kids in the classroom on that one. The mental health piece was brought up as well, and this is a very sad story because a lot of those funds that I said would be drying up are Hurricane Michael related, thank you, and COVID related. It brings into the whole piece of what Coach said here about the phones being an issue. Well, we did take action on a policy for the phones we call it bell to bell, no phones out in the open period. So those things are being done from a policy standpoint. We're always going to have bullies, but we just need to take care of it at the right level at the quickest time possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we will go ahead and start with, we're going to move on to our next question. And Mr. Petty, we will start with you. Okay. This is a wordy one. So in the last few years, there have been high-profile enforcement actions taken against a school administrator, a local principal, and a transportation department employee. In some cases, the superintendent sought harsh punishment, and in others, a lighter touch. This has invited public concern and inconsistent treatment from the district. Acknowledging you may not be comfortable speaking on the details of these cases, do you believe the current process of handling personnel matters has been fair? And is there a role for the school board to address public concerns about consistent treatment?
No, it has not been fair. The school board should be a part of the process in every single situation. There should not be a suspension that is not enacted without approval of the school board. Whatever led to a suspension should be aired for the board, who has been elected by the people. There's a term, firm, fair, and consistent. We do not always see that. Let's talk about one administrator. In the beginning, here's the issue. Everyone is watching. So when we watch and we see what happens to one administrator that is recommended for the 10-day unpaid suspension, and we don't know what happened, every other administrator has now watched that and it's like a cooling effect that goes across all of them across the district. And that is, I have to be careful in how I say this. The end result, the unintended consequences that the administrators no longer are, some of them do not feel as if they will be supported, which then affects our expectations at the school level and our kids' behavior. And it goes back to the earlier question where kids and parents don't feel like it's a safe environment. The school board has to have the back of the employees, and any action taken against an employee should be done so in the public and by vote of the board.
Read that first part of your question again, that first part.
In the last few years, there have been high-profile enforcement actions taken against a school administrator, a local principal, and a transportation department employee. In some cases, the superintendent sought harsh punishment, In others, a lighter touch. This has invited public concern about inconsistent treatment from the district. Acknowledging you may not be comfortable speaking on the details of these cases, do you believe the current process of handling personnel matters has been fair? And is there a role for the school board to address public concerns about consistent treatment?
If I were one of the individuals who had a heavy hand put on me as a result of egregious behavior, I would definitely say it is not fair. It concerns me that we do not have consistency across the board. I think it would be more appropriate for the superintendent to perhaps consult, because when you live in a glass house, everybody sees what you do or the decisions that you make, and they're making a comparative analysis of how others were treated. So I think it is very, very important that we have a fair level of treatment for employees across the board. Now, I don't know if we do a matrix. I don't know how the superintendent should do that. But I know that as a principal, I had certain standards that had to be met. And if you didn't meet those standards, then everybody got the same treatment. I mean, while I love my teachers, and they understood and they knew that, but if there was something that they did that caused a problem, of course they had to come visit with me, and it was depending on how egregious it was, whether or not they received something more strenuous or consequential than what they would have initially thought they had. But everybody got the same treatment. And so I would say that in summation, no, I do not believe it's fair, and I would hope that in the future that there will be some type of consultation to ensure, look back over 2 or 3 years, how have I treated these individuals who perpetuated the same acts? Then I should do the same thing for this individual.
Thank you. Ms. Koch?
Yes, so I feel like the discipline action has definitely been unfairly responded to by our superintendent. This has been a pretty divisive issue in our community, I feel like. Seeing someone get let off relatively easily compared to the discipline that another individual might have faced for a different circumstance. But you mentioned discipline matrix, and as a teacher, I had photocopied both sides because it was so long that there were 2 sides of how I had to handle discipline in my classroom. And I couldn't just willy-nilly, decide that this student gets this treatment or this one gets another treatment. So there definitely has to be a policy in place, and maybe the school board needs to draft that. And then make sure that it is followed, but transparency is key. If we're hiding something or people think you're hiding something, then that's not going to go over well at all either. So yes, absolutely, there need to be policies in place for certain actions, and people need to be handled fairly.
Thank you. Mr. Manley?
Well, I'm pretty close to the administrator that was disciplined. And if you take 10 days of pay away from somebody, that's a pretty good punishment. And if you don't investigate exactly what happened, then you can't make a judgment. And I believe the superintendent has the power over all of the administrators. They have a 1-year contract, an annual contract. So at his discretion, he can let someone go. In this particular case, all the facts were not presented. And the people who voted on the other punishment did not investigate. They went by hearsay from people outside the community. And I think that was wrong. And I think the other one about the discipline on the gentleman from the transportation department, I think if you run the transportation department, how did you not know those things were happening unless you were a part of it? So how do you come in and do one thing for one person and then you're going to let somebody go, I think, again, because they were a whistleblower? I just think it's not right. Every incident has its own circumstances. But I think the board should be in on it, but I think they should hear the entire story, not just something from the outside. I happen to know this administrator. She actually played softball for me. And I was her AD when she was a soccer coach and a softball coach. So I know her personally, and I just think that that was totally wrong. But the superintendent has the discretion. I think he did what he thought was right. But I don't think they went through and wanted something else extra. I don't think that was right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Yes, this one is a big sore point for me, and I think many of you have seen my rebuking the superintendent for things he's done that were extremely light for, and I don't go with hearsay or anything else. I read the Inspector General's report. I did a FOIA on that, got a hold of it, and saw what they substantiated as violations of district policy, of federal tax code, of misappropriation of school resources, and also use of personnel for personal errands, et cetera, at the expense of the district. That's not Chris Moore's words. That's the Inspector General of the Florida Department of Education that substantiated that, along with the HR department, which did a very in-depth investigation on this one. 5 days of unpaid suspension in June was not fitting of the crimes, and they were crimes. And I still don't understand why they're allowed to continue as a leader and allowed to continue as what should be the paragon of virtue and ethics on that one. The most recent piece with the transportation, I don't know that the Inspector General report has been released yet, but gotten some feedback on that. And I think it was good to see that leadership was held accountable for an extremely young employee on that one. I think that the right decisions were made by the superintendent on that one, and I support what the IG did, and I think punishments being meted out properly on that. But we'll see. Again, I'm not listening to people whisper in my ears. I'm reading the Inspector General reports and going with that one.
Can we have a rebuttal on that?
Could I at least have my 10 seconds back here?
You got it, buddy.
All right, where was I? Actually, I didn't mention your name. I don't know why you would deserve a rebuttal, but I'm just going to follow the rules because I'm kind of a rule follower on that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
I give my 10 seconds
Thank you.
back.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yet the rules do specify that you have to specifically be mentioned by name in order to get a 30-second rebuttal. So we're going to go ahead and continue on.
I'm just a disruptor.
Ms. Littleton.
I'm sorry.
You're interrupting me. This is not a no-brainer. It's pretty complicated, and it's very emotional. However, the superintendent does personnel. He was within every right, and you know that he conferred with the attorney, I'm sure, before he did anything else. The board is not going to jump up and down and say you can't do that, because he can. This man is elected. He is not appointed by this board. We are not responsible for what he does. We can put guidelines and we can let him know that we berate him or whatever. But this man is voted on, this position is voted on by everyone in Bay County, which again brings the point that voting is very important, and for whom you vote is very important. So unless it is determined that the board should appoint a superintendent, he should be fair. Yes, he should. Can we make him fair? No, we cannot.
Okay, we're going to go ahead now and move on. Dr. Haley, you will start with this next question. Due to the constraints of time, we have time for one, possibly two more questions, depend on how quickly we move. So I'll start. Many parents have been disgruntled at the length of time it has taken to receive an IEP, which is an individual education plan, for their child. How would you ensure students with disabilities receive appropriate services within a timely manner?
That should be the responsibility of the principal, although we do have a staff at the district office who helps schools implement that. But one of the things that all of those individuals are identified at the beginning of the year, and those IEPs are especially pertinent to a child's success. Now, for reasons unbeknownst to me, there may or may not be giving it done in a timely fashion, but there should not, that should not occur. Everybody should be doing their job. ESE teachers, they have allocated certain number of students whose IEPs they're responsible for, and that they should not be 6 weeks late, 8 weeks late, a semester, a year late. That is not something that should ever happen. And if they need assistance, then contact the district office, who will send somebody in to help accelerate, to rectify the problem that those students have. That is so very, especially when kids, because a lot of times ESE kids, they have the, not necessarily proclivity, but they experience behavior scenarios. And a lot of times you have to have a manifestation hearing to ensure that the behavior is not as a result of their the disability. And so, and then that also plays into them having their IEPs. You know, because, in other words, if they have a behavior that's causing a problem, and then you have a manifestation hearing, is that a result of their behavior? And if so, then you have to sort of back off the consequences for that particular child. But I want to go back and I want to reiterate emphatically, no, that should not happen.
Thank you. Ms. Koch.
Okay, so I am a certified ESE teacher. I've sat in on many IEP meetings. Federal and state law mandate the time in which an IEP must be carried out. I believe staff shortages have resulted in delays. And I'm looking at someone shaking her head, and I know that she was reassigned to be a full-time ESE teacher, even though that wasn't her role at the beginning of the year. There are reading coaches at our district office. There are curriculum coordinators. They need to maybe step out of those roles for a time period if there's a staff shortage, and we need to make sure that IEPs are delivered. So there's really no excuse, absolutely. If you have, it's kind of like our sub shortage. If you have people in the Nelson building that are available, then they need to jump in and get in the trenches with us and make those shortages disappear until someone qualified can be hired. So no, there's no reason for that kind of thing to ever happen.
Thank you. Mr. Manley.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Many parents have been disgruntled at the length of time it has taken to receive an IEP for their child. How would you ensure students with disabilities receive appropriate services within a timely manner?
Well, when they come to your school, first of all, IEP teachers don't fall out of the sky. So, you know, and the ESE teachers who help you with all this. But when they come to the school and they come in from different schools, we don't always get where they need a 504 or whatever they need. So it takes a while for us to get it from school. If the parents brings in something that they can use, I'm not teaching anymore, I'm sorry. And when they have something we can use to do that, it gets done very effectively. But if you get somebody that comes in and say, we were in Colorado, we don't know exactly what they had or anything, if they need a 504, they will come to you and say, we need a 504. And if it's not done quickly enough, then it needs to be reported to somebody that will get it done quickly. And that goes through administration and it goes to the county office. And I agree that there are people out there that are very qualified that may have to step down in a role. When I first started teaching in a school in Tennessee, they had the principal would teach a history class just so he could get to know the students and what people needed. Not saying we need to do that here, but we need to make sure that they have the proper things to tell us what kind of IEP, what is a 504, whatever it's supposed to be. So that's the way you try to settle it. It doesn't always get done fast enough, but You know, it's not how many people, how many students you have in that school that you have to take care of. So sometimes it doesn't go as fast, even though it may be federally mandated. So I just think that's the way to do it, to find out as quickly as you can what they need and then get somebody on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Yes, so on this one, length of time being too long, as a board, and just by mannerisms of not doing the day-to-day execution, we often don't see or hear anything about IEPs taking years at times, taking years, until one thing happens, and that's an email, that's someone getting up in front of the board and explaining what their situation is, and then engaging with that person. That's when the board, we can get involved with asking the right questions of the right people at the district staff, because we're not ESE teachers, we're not generators of IEPs. And you know, traveling around a lot of duty stations, my daughter had a 504 and an IEP at every school she went to. Parental involvement was helpful with that, but until someone stands up, and this is a real case that I just, remembered and was reminded of by an individual, a grandparent that came up and said that it had been over 2 years that they had been working on an IEP for their child that was on the spectrum. And I was flabbergasted and had to run her down after the meeting and engage with it. And apparently action was taken by the district staff within 48 hours. And that floored me. But we don't find out about that until way late in the game, when parents are trying to do the right things. We've done that in our family, and sometimes you just don't get the response from the 30 seconds, okay. You don't get the response from the teachers. Maybe then it moves up to the administrators. I'm big about that chain of command kind of thing, I guess military background, but you start at the lowest level and you work up until you get the proper answer or something along that line. So it's a travesty, but we don't know about it, and you just need to let us know. My email is out there, my phone number is out there, and I have never turned away responding to a parent or concerned grandparent on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton?
I would echo what Chris said. No one has ever contacted me as a board member when I didn't get on the phone and do something. And board members have a voice, whether we are responsible or not. People will pick up the phone and answer. So I think that that's a very good, a good piece of advice. I know from my experience, some of the delay is administrivia delay. First of all, it's expectations. It's like, I know it's an IEP, but I have lots of IEPs to do, and I just can't make it happen, blah, 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 blah. It has to be a priority, and it has to be an expectation by everybody, including the board. This is a child who is losing out because of something that the grown-ups are not doing. I get really ticked off when grown-ups don't do the things they're supposed to do. So I would expect there is a limit on IEPs, and everybody gets it within that limit. And if not, there should be someone in that boardroom saying this should not happen.
Thank you. Mr. Patty?
The parents are upset and they are frustrated because it takes so long to get an IEP. I assure you, the teachers are just as upset and frustrated. The challenge we face is the data collection. MTSS, I almost asked them to all say the 4 letters. That's the problem. It takes so long to get the data, and then if there's a break, then we have to start over the whole process of trying this out to collect data. Let's try this out, collect more data. Let's try this out, collect more data. The whole time the kid is he's an experiment. He's a lab experiment. And I don't mean it ugly like that, but that's really what we're talking about. So we've got to fix the MTSS process so that the kid doesn't have to wait so long to get the services. That's what the school board can do. We can support our student services department and make sure that MTSS is operating properly, that our administrators and our teachers understand how it works, and that our instructional specialists are pushing in and helping them. That will help our kids get through the process quicker, and it will make the parents happy.
Thank you. We do have, time does allow for one last question, so this will be the final question. Ms. Koch, we will start with you. Each year, Bay County residents hear the shortage of teachers and the need for quality teachers. Yet many teachers who are rated highly effective receive letters on Red Letter Day stating that they are not being renewed for their position at their school, often with no reason given. The teachers can go back through the application process and apply at other schools, but there is no guarantee for them. Do you agree or disagree with this practice? And what can the district do to attract and retain highly effective teachers?
Well, this is a huge issue. To be on a 10-month contract and to learn everything that you need to learn as a teacher about IEPs and the curriculum and your students and do a great job to get highly effective and then be given a red letter, that's absolutely abhorrent. And it should be stopped yesterday, but tomorrow would also be good. So I think the teachers union may be able to work with extending 3-year contracts to teachers for a little more job security. I think the state legislature definitely needs to get involved and push for more job security for teachers. If you want individuals to put their heart into what they do, which is what teachers do every day, then you're going to need to meet them halfway and give them a longer contract. You're going to need to support them if a student's misbehaving in the class. You're going to need to provide a substitute for a day that they might have to step out of the classroom. So Red Letter Day is a huge issue. I believe I'm the only educator up here that is currently facing that every 10 months. So yeah, I hear you. It's an issue and it needs to stop immediately.
Mr. Manley?
Well, having had a Red Letter Day a couple of times because of student shortages, it is a little disheartening. Red Letter Day, they really don't have to give you a reason. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, District 2 personnel, that they did that because they kept getting lawsuits because they would give them a reason and they could prove it wasn't a valid reason. I think they had a couple of those, and so they did not give a reason. The other thing too is used to have, and I don't think we have this anymore, used to have a 3-year period and then you would get continuing contract. So I don't think they do that anymore. So the Red Letter Day is anxious for everybody. So if you've been there 25 years, you could get a red letter. I don't think you need to do that. I think you need to keep the experienced teachers as much as you can because they can help the ones that are just starting out. Now, this is going to be tied a little bit to teacher pay. You're losing a lot of people because it's hard to live in this county now. All this construction that's going on is raising the prices of rent, it's raising everything. Plus, if you try to drive anywhere, you know what it is. But the Red Letter Day, it's got to be curtailed somehow. We got to have a reason to let them go, or we need to find out why, and we need to know that thing. I just think it's a terrible way to do business. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, so if anybody's been to a school board meeting lately, you know how passionate I am about dismissal without cause. This one is a hot wire for me, and I've gone on record at the school board meetings asking, why are we doing this? Dismissal without cause this is a right to work state. You can dismiss people for no cause, but under normal practices in both the military and in industry, you give a person their deficiencies. You let them know what their issue is if there are deficiencies. If they have those, you form a performance improvement plan, a PIP plan, and then you give them some time period to correct their actions. If they don't, fine, dismissal is warranted. I get that. But when we get to Red Letter Day, first of all, that is an absolutely insulting, degrading term, because the last time I was in literature in 7th grade, I read something called The Scarlet Letter, and it was Hester Prynne who had that big red A sewn to her dress, and it was because she was an adulterer. It was an embarrassment. And if you think the teachers feel any less embarrassed when they go to lunch, and this happens more often than you would like to know, they go to lunch and they come back and there's a letter placed on there that says you are not renewed. No explanation is given, and in fact, the direction is to not give any explanation. Perhaps it's because of the legal issues or whatever, but I would say that anybody should be told why they're being dismissed. It's not only fair, but it's also the ethical and moral right thing to do on that. So I absolutely want to see this go away. I know it's going to take working with the union, because it's in the union contracts on that one. And so I've got a plan moving forward on this one. I've already started on it, and I want to continue it over the next 4 years.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton.
It's a horrible way to do business. I got a call from a wonderful, wonderful teacher who had great experience, and he was crying on the phone. He was so embarrassed. On the other hand, our schools are not static. You may have 1,200 teachers or 1,200 students this year, and you may have 912 the next year. You can't hire teachers knowing that you're going to lose teachers. And I don't know how to answer that. All I can say is, among board members, superintendent and staff, and our legal team, we should be able to find a way to navigate this and not have it be a red letter day. That, I agree with Chris. It is demeaning. It's embarrassing. There's nothing good about it, except it keeps the district off the hook when it has to leave teachers because of FTE counts and things like that, and cut people. But red letter day is definitely not the way to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Petty.
So Florida law does not allow for a multi-year contract. There's only 6 people who can have a multi-year contract. That's the 5 board members and the elected superintendent. All 6 have been elected. Everyone else is on an annual contract, unless you happen to be one of fewer than 100 that have PSC. So I taught with a dear friend, and I would say her name, but then she gets 30 seconds to speak. She used to say to me, Michael, I am the only one, meaning she is the only person that can take her job and cost her her job. Because she had PSC, meaning she had continuing contract. So in order to terminate her, there had to be just cause. She had to have done something. Whereas our annual contract teachers, they are automatically out of a job at the end of the year unless they are actively renewed. So then, can the teacher predict whether or not they will have a job? If we look at their evaluation, most of them would go buy a house and a car if they could afford it. But because their evaluation is highly effective, that's my point. But then they get non-renewed. We have hundreds of non-renewed. So as a school board, what can we do? We can look at the evaluation system and make certain it is aligned with performance. Second, we can make certain that the principal has to justify the non-renewal. It cannot be because I want to post a job, go fishing, and see how many people, does somebody better pop up. Next, when we hire somebody, we're making a commitment to them that we're going to train them up and keep them for a career. And last, and here's the ugly truth, we have people who do need to go. This is not their calling, this is not their purpose-driven life, but we have to rehire them because we don't have enough people.
Thank you. Dr. Haley.
I'm not going to forget that.
That being said, as a principal, you only allocated so many units. And then for example, if you have 90 teachers, and then at the end of the year, you find out you're going to end up with 85. At one particular time, it used to be like this. last hired, first fired. I'm just using colloquial expressions. But now, that being said, the terminology when I was coming up, we did not have red letter days. We basically called it non-renewal. And there was more than a likelihood that you probably knew that you may or may not be non-renewed. You would, and if there was an issue with you, you didn't find out on i.e. red letter day. You were in my office, we talked about things, and if you decided that you were not going to make the changes and the adjustments needed necessary, you were aware that probably you would not be asked back. So that being said, those individuals who have highly effective evaluations, it only makes sense to me if they're not able to come back at your school, which started with 90 down to 85, that individual will obviously go somewhere to where they can obtain employment. Student populations adjust. One school may be losing kids, another school may be gaining kids. If you're a highly effective teacher, it makes sense to me that the district office will work that out for you. That's just common sense to me.
Thank you. Okay, that was the last of our questions, so we will go ahead and move along to our closing statements. And Ms. Koch, you started the last time, so our closing statements will start with Mr. Manley. You have 1 minute, not 2, so 1 minute for your closing statement.
Okay. Well, I've been around this education, the Bay Education Theater, for over 38 years. Even though I retired, I stayed in contact with a lot of the schools. I support the schools, and I go to a lot of events. And as a school board member, I will be able to go to the schools, especially the ones that I own in my district, so I can go there and know what the students are doing, what the school needs to have, and what it doesn't need to have. And I also have time to go to the other schools that are not in my district. I just think if you need somebody that would be able to go and help everybody out and be able to vote for things that their schools need. So that's me.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
First of all, thank you, Moms for Liberty. What a great forum this has been, and educational as well. We've obviously got some well-qualified folks up here, but I do believe in that opening statement when I said I bring diversity of perspective to an organization that, and God bless each and every one of the servants that are sitting up here on the dais with me. They are God's people, and like clergy, like military, teachers and administrators, you're not going to get rich doing it. If you do, you probably broke a law, but I'm sure that didn't happen. But you serve, and you have to have a passion for it. Know that I have that passion. My children are beyond Bay District schools now, and they're doing great. I just want to continue because I feel like I have a whole lot more work to do on this one for you, for the students, and for everybody in this community. And with that, I again thank you all for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Littleton.
Again, thank you very much. It's been wonderful. The questions are fabulous. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I wanted to mention career technical ed we haven't really touched on, but a lot of our kids get out of school not really knowing stuff. I think that CTE should be required so that before anybody leaves Bay District schools, they have some skill that they could sell immediately out of school, and I think we should require that. I think we should require kids to have a physics class. Whether it's physics in the kitchen, I don't know, but I think that would get us again back into that element of being good at math and science, which I'm sort of partial to even as an English teacher. So I would love for the opportunity to get back. And I'm also, even though my purse is at my home, I'm also good to kick some butt. Okay? I'm ready for that. It's not another opportunity for me. I want to get in there and kick butt and take names. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Petty.
My entire career has been in Bay District schools. My love is with our kids and our educators. In every single position, I've been an advocate for them. I believe in a purpose-driven life. And for me, I have been given the skills and the knowledge to be right here as an educator, and the next step will be on the school board, serving as a school board member. Here's the thing. In 2004, that was 22 years ago, I entered our district. That was 22 years ago. I'm 51 today. So in 22 years from now, I'll be 71. I want to be able to look back and think, I did something good. I did something for our community, and we're better off for it. I ask for your vote, August 18th.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate having all of us. God has blessed me to check every box. I started off as a substitute teacher, a paraprofessional, a teacher, a dean, administrative assistant, assistant principal, and eventually went to the office as the executive director for operations. Not only that, I'm a pastor. I founded New Covenant Church of God in Christ, built it from the ground up with no loan, over $750,000 facility. And I'm so excited about that. Not only that, I am the owner and founder of Doc Homes, LLC. I manage a lot of budgets and have a lot of responsibility in terms of leadership. Now, one of the things that I want to continue to do is to ensure that our students in Bay District schools experience the highest level of academic success they possibly can. I've seen a school go from literally a B to an A. I know how to get there. How does that parallel with, oh, I'm so sorry. I can help principals do that.
Thank you, Dr. Haley. Ms. Koch.
Thank you for coming. This is my first political forum. As I stated earlier, I am the only person up here that actually has children in our schools. I see at the elementary, the middle school, and the high school level the policies that our school board puts into place. I also see them at home, well, as a parent, but I also see them at school as a school teacher. So I want to make sure that the school board meetings, that I'm read in on the policies. I'm in the trenches, and I'm your choice for a school board member because I am one of you. So thank you for your vote on August 18th.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you all. It's a fabulous evening, and I'm going to turn this over to Michelle Brown.
You did a good job.
Well, as we conclude tonight's debate, I just want to extend my sincere thanks to you guys, to each one of you for taking the time to come here and participate in this and your willingness to serve the families and students of Bay County. Before I say goodnight, and this is mostly for the audience, is I want to remind everybody that in Bay County, every registered voter can vote for these candidates. It doesn't matter if you're in District 2, if you're in District 3, where you live, you need to go to vote in the primaries for your favorite candidate that you've learned about and you stand behind. And don't stay home for this primary. After all of that, thank you all so much, and God bless.
Thank you, Michelle. Bless you. Bless you.